Okay, today's subject is the wind pump. Call it a wind pump, and this is a very simple, basic concept as it is right now. In reality, this would be a lot different. Just to get something working right now. But this is a kite powered wind generator. And in reality, this would be a lot bigger and a lot more complex. It would need a transmission, a flywheel, a mechanical battery, and gears, and there's a lot of more detail that's going to go into this. But as it is right now, this is a simple, basic concept on the wind pump idea. In reality, I'd be using ropes, but there are no ropes in this game. I'd be flying this kite at the top here, like on a rope. But there are no ropes in this game, no pulleys and stuff, so I can only use solid objects like this. But this is a kite-powered generator. So watch the flaps at the top there. When it flaps up, push down, flaps up, push up, flaps down, push down, push the crankshaft down, flaps up, pull the crankshaft up, flaps down, pull the crankshaft down. So this is like a wind-powered pump. And in reality, this rope right here would be thousands of feet long. In high altitude, thousands of feet high. It's hard enough to get this small scale prototype in the camera as it is right now. But is as big as I could make it without having trouble getting it all in on the camera here. Just if I get it too big and too tall, you wouldn't be able to see what was going on with it. So it's instead of a wind turbine that spins around, this is pumping the wind up and down. It's not spinning around like a turbine. It's pumping the air up and down. Flaps up, pull the crankshaft up. Flaps down, push the crankshaft down. Flaps up, flaps down, push the crankshaft up. Flaps up, push the crankshaft down. And it would be powering a generator and a mechanical battery. So, in reality, this would be a lot more detailed, but this is just a small scale prototype as it is. So, the idea here is, if this rope was thousands of feet high in altitude on a cable using this flat type of wind pumping on a kite, it's like how you fly a kite. You got to kind of pump it to get it flying sometimes, but once it gets really high up in altitude, the wind is a much faster speed at higher altitudes. The higher altitudes go up, the more consistent and powerful the wind is blowing. So at high altitudes, a kite like this would be generating hundreds of pounds of torque. And I want to make the kite bigger. It's going to be it's going to be a very large kite. But this is as big as I can get it without putting it into the camera there. Okay, I can't get it any bigger without having camera difficulties. You know, it's hard to put this whole gigantic thing in the frame. So in reality, it would be like a much taller, much longer, much higher altitude on a cable. But basically, all it would do is like when it would release, and then on the upward stroke, that flaps would pull up. And if this was a very large kite at high altitude, you would possibly be able to generate hundreds of tons of torque pulling this crankshaft. And the crankshaft would be powering a generator, electric generator. So instead of a wind turbine that spins up and down, this is pumping the wind up and down. Okay? Big problem with wind turbines, reason why a lot of them fail, is because the wind turbines are spinning around. These giant wind turbines are spinning around in low altitude, and a lot of dust is blowing on the wind turbine. The wind turbine is spinning around, and dust particles are smacking this wind turbine constantly. Dust particles in the air, smacking the wind turbine constantly, damaging the turbine. And they all need repair after a certain amount of time. They can only run for so long before you need to replace the turbine blades. But once you start getting up into high altitudes, this dust won't affect it. So this would be a lot more, would be dust resistant at higher altitudes. I think if this kite was a lot larger and a lot bigger, a lot more advanced, it would be able to generate hundreds of tons of torque on an upward crankshaft pull. You'd pull the flaps up and pull that crankshaft on a high gear ratio and a transmission and a mechanical battery. So because it's like hundreds of tons, it would be able to, like on an upward stroke right here, flaps down, pulling up, it would literally be pulling that crankshaft at a very high gear ratio with hundreds of tons of torque. And I imagine something like this, you would be able to get a mechanical battery spinning very fast. There's all kinds of detail. There's so much more detail that needs to go into this. I'm unable to use ropes in this game. I have to use this type of construction, but in reality, the crankshaft and so forth would have a giant mechanical battery and a flywheel and an electric generator and even a turret for the ground for it to adjust towards the wind and such. On and on. There's so much more detail that goes into something like this. But just as a basic concept as it is right now, this is pretty basic, simple wind pump concept and how it would work. I could get into so much detail. Atmospheric electricity, short-circuiting the grounded negative electrons with positive free electrons in the atmosphere would also generate an extra 1,000 watts of volts. There's so much more detail that needs to go into something like this, but unfortunately, there are no transmissions, flywheels, mechanical batteries, and such in this video game anyways. I had to improvise pretty much everything on this, and you know, if I wanted to add the transmission and flywheel and axle and all that stuff, does it? It's not in this game. I can't do that in this game. The parts on this game are kind of limited. Just the basic concept of a wind pump: thrust vector down, push crankshaft down, flaps up, push crankshaft up, thrust flaps down, up, push crankshaft down. Okay, so pretty basic, simple wind pump concept, and there's so much more detail that needs to go into something like this in reality. Just wanted to get the basic concept. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.